Wisconsin Live Desk on this Thursday afternoon, 12:30 here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Getting ready to take you around our beautiful part of the state here. A live look at downtown Milwaukee, kind of a cool angle of the lakefront there and some of the buildings and the rest of our viewing area in the background on this gorgeous Thursday afternoon. The rain has since cleared. We are tracking a series of things for you, both locally and around the country. First and foremost, there is a press conference happening right now after this shooting of two members of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., I believe. Let me give you some information on that. What happened? Two people shot and killed outside of a Jewish museum in Washington. They were young staffers at the embassy. We're going to try to catch some of that. But right now, the White House press secretary is speaking in Washington, D.C., taking questions from the media about a range of topics. Let's listen in to Caroline Levitt in Washington at the White House.
And their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
The fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
No, it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
Verifies the videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders to show?
Yamiche, what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated, and that's a ridiculous line of questioning. John, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Carolyn. The big, beautiful bill now goes to the Senate.
Does, yes.
A lot of the Republican senators have promised amendments that will water this thing down dramatically. What is the president's level of tolerance for their amendments to water it down, and what will be the action taken for some of the amendments that the president does not want?
Sure. Well, the One Big Beautiful Bill is named the One Big Beautiful Bill for a reason, because it is a one big beautiful bill that encompasses just about everything this president could want for the American public. It delivers on so many of his core campaign promises. So surely we want to see those campaign promises signed into law. And as the president put in his Truth Social post this morning, and as he said to me, we can celebrate this past the House for a couple of hours, but now it's time for the Senate to get to work. The president has a great relationship with Senate Majority Leader Thune, and of course so many friends on the Senate side of the Hill, and he's expecting them to get busy on this bill and send it to his desk as soon as possible. Phil.
Thank you. Given that the president said the other day the SALT cap, we don't want to benefit Democratic governors, if the Senate was to reduce that SALT cap or make any type of changes, would he support that, or is this a situation where done is beautiful and he just wants to pass it?
Well, look, it's a hypothetical question, obviously. Negotiations... Well, correct. The bill passed, didn't it? So now it's off to the Senate where additional negotiations will take place, and we'll see how it goes. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions on the beautiful bill. One of the campaign promises from President Trump was no tax on Social Security. Now, due to congressional rules, that wasn't able to be included in this bill. How does the president plan to follow through on that campaign promise?
Well, this bill did address taxes for our seniors. It actually allows them to take off significant money from their Social Security payments, get more money back, I should say, put more money in their pockets for various reasons. So this bill delivers on that promise. That's the view of the White House.
Secondly, you had two Republicans last night that voted against this bill, Congressman Massey and Davidson. Does the president think that they should be primaried?
I believe he does, and I don't think he likes to see grandstanders in Congress. What's the alternative? I would ask those members of Congress. Did they want to see a tax hike? Did they want to see our country go bankrupt? That's the alternative by them trying to vote no. And the president believes the Republican Party needs to be unified, and the vast majority of Republicans clearly are and are listening to the president. They are trusting in President Trump, as they should, because there's a reason he's sitting in this Oval Office. It's because he's the unequivocal leader of the Republican Party. Not just a president for Republicans, but all Americans. The president's approval rating is at an all-time high right now, and it's because he knows how to deliver. And Republicans like Thomas Massey and others should take note. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. Building on the question about Social Security, the bill includes the president's promises to address taxes on tips and overtime. Could you say his feelings about the income cap? Is he satisfied where that landed? And also on a different matter, could you comment on the investigation that the Justice Department has into Andrew Cuomo?
As for the first question, the president is clearly satisfied where the bill landed because it passed. Again, now it has to go to the Senate, so changes could certainly be made. As for your second question, I would defer you to the Department of Justice. Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Can you explain the decision to totally shake up FEMA leadership just a week before hurricane season?
You'd have to ask the Department of Homeland Security in terms of leadership, but certainly the administration, and I know the National Security Council here at the White House is monitoring storms and natural disasters that are happening across the country at all times. We're briefed on those. The administration is briefed on those, and Secretary Noem is leading that effort for sure.
Switching gears, Caroline.
Yeah, just following up on Warren Davidson, I wanted to read you his quote that he posted online. While I love many things in the bill, promising someone else will cut spending in the future does not cut spending. Deficits do matter, and this bill grows them. Why should that get a Republican primary?
This bill saves $1.6 trillion for the American taxpayer. It saves more than any bill that has ever passed Capitol Hill has. In fact, by double. The next bill saved $800 billion. This bill saves $1.6 trillion. So this is a very good bill for the American people, the American taxpayer. And I believe, as an outlet put it with a headline this morning, it might have been Politico actually, they wrote that the American people are going to be flush with cash when this thing is signed into law. And that's a good thing for American taxpayers. Sure, go ahead.
Caroline, what is the president doing to win Senate passage by July 4th? And does that include work to eliminate carried interest and make business tax cuts permanent? Where is he on those issues?
Well, look, this bill literally just passed the House of Representatives, so now our team is suiting up for discussions with the Senate side of Capitol Hill. The president again said this morning he hopes to see this bill at his desk as soon as possible, and he'll be engaged in the process to get it through the Senate, just like he was to get it through the House of Representatives.
What kind of assurances did he give the Freedom Caucus members to kind of ensure that this would get through last night? Was changes to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac part of that equation, changes administratively to Medicaid as well?
Well, I was in that meeting yesterday with the president and House Freedom Caucus, and he told them how he wants to be a cheerleader for them, a cheerleader for the Republican Party, and for the country. And Republicans faced a pivotal moment yesterday. They could have voted to bankrupt the country and increase taxes by $4 trillion, or they could vote for this one big, beautiful bill which cuts taxes and saves American taxpayers money. And he put that proposition before them, and clearly they heeded the call because the bill passed last night. Sure.
Caroline, so on the
or this morning, rather. Every day is going into the next. Go ahead.
The Netanyahu call. Just curious, did the president raise the flow of aid into Gaza? Is he happy with where that situation is right now?
Not to my knowledge, but I can certainly go back and check.
And did you have any reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling about the religious charter school today, as well as Justice Coney Barrett's decision to recuse herself?
We'll get you an answer on that case specifically. Sure.
You mentioned the president has a good relationship with Leader Thune. Has he talked to him specifically about the plan to get this through the Senate? Does he plan, or is he going to reach out to Republicans who have voiced concerns?
Not to my knowledge. Has he spoken to Leader Thune this morning? He very well could have. I just wasn't briefed on that call. We can go back and check for you. The president did speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning. He also had a call with President Sheinbaum this morning. He was receiving his intelligence briefing. He's been very busy all morning. But again, he certainly intends to remain active and engaged in these negotiations with the United States Senate to get this bill done.
And just following up on the dinner tonight, you mentioned this is not a White House dinner, but the president is always the president, and the Trump family is making money off of this. So can you just explain, how is this not the president using the office to enrich himself?
All of the president's assets are in a blind trust, which is managed by his children, and I would argue one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president back to this office is because he was a very successful businessman before giving it up to publicly serve our country. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. Last week, the president told Brett Baer that he trusts his people, but thinks that the official narrative on his assassination attempts are, quote, a little bit odd. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said days later that there's no conspiracy to find, and as he put it, quote, the there that you're looking for is not there. My question is the president personally satisfied with the investigations into the attempts on his life? And does he agree with Deputy FBI Director, or does he think there's more to it?
Well, in the lead up to your question, you answered your own question with the president's own words, and I'll leave it at that. Sure, go ahead, Haley. Thank you, Caroline. Haley, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to follow up on his call with Prime Minister Netanyahu in his effort to reach a deal with Iran. Does he feel like he has the Prime Minister's support in this effort at this point, or did the Prime Minister raise concerns to him in this conversation?
I won't get further into the private discussion between the president and the prime minister, but surely they have a good relationship, one that's built on transparency and trust. And the president has made it very clear to not just Prime Minister Netanyahu, but also the world, that he wants to see a deal with Iran struck, if one can be struck. He does not want to have to take the latter option, the more severe and negative option. He wants to see a deal. The president is a deal maker, and he believes strongly in diplomacy, and he's made that clear to the prime minister, but also to all of you and, frankly, the rest of the world. Mary.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions, one on the terror attack last night and then another on the big, beautiful bill. Do you or President Trump have a message to politicians like Ilhan Omar, who only this morning explicitly avoided condemning this act of terror?
It's despicable. And frankly, we have seen a rise in anti-Semitic protests, of pro-Hamas protests, of terrorist sympathizers. We saw them on our college campuses, and we've seen the Democrat Party turn a blind eye and in some cases actually embrace such anti-Semitic illegal behavior. And that's why this administration has done more than any administration in history to crack down on anti-Semitism. As you know, in January, when the president took office, he signed a new executive order to combat anti-Semitism. He created a commission focused on doing just that. The Justice Department announced their task force as well. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has revoked thousands of student visas from campuses where these pro-Hamas terrorist campus agitators and violent protests took place. And we've also withheld funding from those very campuses as well in an effort to combat anti-Semitism. So the president's made it very clear that such hatred will have no place in our country.
Thank you. And then on the big, beautiful bill, I know there's a provision in the House included that defunds Planned Parenthood, not only because of the fact that it's the nation's largest abortion provider, but also because it's, I think, the biggest distributor of transgender hormones right now, even to minors, according to Live Action. So is the president committed to making sure that provision stays in the Senate?
The president has maintained a very clear commitment to ensuring that this administration and the American people's tax dollars are not funding any institution. That includes hospital systems that are funding the chemical castration and mutilation of children. We're not going to tolerate taxpayer dollars going to such efforts. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. You mentioned at the top of the briefing that the migrants were to be sent to a third country. I was just wondering, could you share any more on, which countries the administration has struck these agreements with and what that agreement with South Sudan specifically looks like?
Well, first of all, I won't litigate foreign policy from the podium, but what I will reiterate is the absurdity of this ruling from a district court judge in Boston who is just creating new immigration laws out of thin air. This administration, let me be very clear, because there have been a lot of fake headlines about this deportation flight over the last 2 days. This administration has complied with all court orders. And the individuals whose names I just revealed and whose criminal histories I just spoke of that are on this flight, every single one of them had a final order of removal from our country. In fact, one of these violent illegal criminals had a final order of removal given to him in 1999. It's 2 years after I was born. This individual, this criminal, has been living in our country for an entire generation. And now we have a district court judge who is trying to tell the president and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Homeland Security that an illegal criminal murderer who's been hiding in the shadows in our country for nearly 30 years cannot be deported from United States soil. That not only is undermining our entire immigration system, but it is also undermining our diplomatic negotiations with countries around the world. How are countries on this earth supposed to trust the United States government and these good faith diplomatic negotiations when these countries accept these repatriation flights? How are they supposed to trust us if we have radical district court judges who are going to say, no, you can't do that? And now these illegal criminal murderers and rapists have to sit in Djibouti with our ICE agents who now have to sit there for more than 2 weeks without the proper resources. This judge is not only undermining our immigration system, undermining our foreign policy and our national security, but this judge is undermining the safety of the ICE agents who are putting their lives on the line to remove this list of illegal criminal terrorists. It's truly despicable what's happening in our court system, and the president and this administration hope that the Supreme Court will do what it needs to do to rein in these liberal activist judges. And the Supreme Court has already said it is well within the president's purview to dictate foreign policy, and a radical district court judge should not be getting in the way of that. We'll see you all later at the Maha event. Thank you.
That was the press secretary there, Caroline Leavitt, taking questions on a range of topics from reporters at the White House. There's also an event, as you heard her mention there at the end, a Make America Healthy Again event supposed to be happening with President Donald Trump and the Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., later today. If that happens during our window here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, certainly something we will bring you. We're going to take a short break and then get into an issue that has been plaguing drivers in Milwaukee for quite some time. We're not talking reckless driving in this case. We're talking potholes here on the Wisconsin Live Desk after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back. It's the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Defmaw hanging out with you here. 12:48 on this Thursday afternoon. We keep on rolling. We got to hear from the White House press secretary there, some of the issues affecting the nation as a whole. One big issue here in the city of Milwaukee that drivers know all too well as we come out of winter, get into spring, that would be potholes. And let's bring in our pothole expert on the story today. That would be Christina Van Zelst joining us live right now, I believe in kind of the Walker's Point neighborhood. Christina, you said 4th and Virginia or so. Tell us what you're covering today and why this is such an issue, as drivers know all too well.
Yeah, so if you've driven in the city of Milwaukee, I'm sure you've come across a pothole or two. So right now we're near Bradley Tech High School. There is a large pothole right behind me here, but this is just one of the thousands that DPW is working to get filled. We had an interview with DPW earlier this morning, and they gave us some numbers to just show that this year, actually, the potholes that they're responding to are less than what they had last year. So this year they have more than 3,000 reports of potholes throughout the city. But when you compare that to last year that number was about 5,000. And they say that is because of the weather, and there was less freezing than thawing and re-thawing. So the weather has been favorable when it comes to potholes. I know it might not feel like it when you are driving, but they also say that they have about 9 different crews spread out throughout the city working on potholes a day, and they try to fulfill about 100 a day. So they are working. We just met up with them over near South 5th Street and Mitchell, where they were filling potholes in that area. So they're out, they're working, but one of the biggest things that they said is if you see a pothole, to report it, because they cannot see everything. They don't know where drivers are having issues. So Carl, what we're gonna do, we're gonna report this pothole together. So
I love it. Okay.
If you're driving, obviously do.
let me tell you, it's probably I've thought this as
driving.
well. I can like run through my head and think about like the different exits I take regularly and how I have to avoid the potholes I see every single day. Here we go. I should be doing what you're doing about it instead.
Well, so you can call. It's I think it's 28. Actually, I don't know the number for sure, so don't quote me on that. But I do know you can do it through the mobile app. So we're gonna go to, it's the City of Milwaukee mobile app, and basically you put in your location. So we've got that there, and then DPW did say make sure to include photos. So there's an option here. So we're gonna do that.
Look at you.
And they said the pictures help to
improving
kind
the
of
city
determine.
around you while also doing your job.
We're trying. All right, so we're gonna take a picture. They say the pictures help too to determine kind of the urgency of what they need to fill and also how busy a street is. So we'll get back on the sidewalk here. But so if you're wondering, okay, I've reported this pothole days ago and it's still not filled, they say their average response time is about 4 days, depending on where you live, where that pothole is. If it's taking up a whole block, that obviously will take precedent over a pothole maybe in a street that's less busy. So you put your photo in, and then the location, we'll just do don't allow for now. Description, so I think as much detail as you can put in is obviously helpful. And then number of potholes, and then you can submit your request. And so they respond to about 100 of these a day. Also, there's that phone number you can call, but the app is really efficient, and it does help if you're having an issue. Like DPW said this morning, they don't know everywhere that you're maybe having issues. And also another thing is maybe they filled a pothole, but it reopened up. Call again, because they don't have eyes all over the city, and those reports do help get people out to where you live or where you're experiencing that issue to get it filled. So
Good
there we go.
advice.
We just made a submission today.
Well, now you got to do the follow-up. You got to go back there each day and see how long it takes for them to actually fill your pothole there, Christina.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they said, woo.
Loud
Sorry, that
motorcycle.
was loud. Yep, someone not affected by the potholes there. that bump did not bother them. But yeah, so again, DPW said they do have crews out. This is their busy time. They also are putting in a lot of overtime to get the potholes filled. And also, this is interesting, if you have damage to your car from a pothole, you can take that as a claim to the city attorney's office and file a claim there, and they look at those things as a case-by-case basis. But
That's
again, what'll help you there what will help you is if you have photos, description of the area, any video possibly. Again, it's kind of hard to determine, on a case-by-case basis, but the DPW said you can file a claim if you have damage to your car from a pothole that was not filled. So
get a wheel or an axle wrecked by something there, then yeah, you might be able to get a little bit of help.
Yeah.
One more time for people who might have just missed it, what is the app? And we'll make sure we get the phone number connected to the story later on Fox Local, but the app is just the City of Milwaukee app?
Yes. So, yep, it's called it's MKE Mobile Action.
Okay.
And it popped right up when you look in your app store.
Nice.
And so then we'll kind of walk you again through it, but you request service. There's also a ton of other things you can do on the app, which is nice if you're tech savvy and like to do things from your phone. But then potholes is the very first option. So you click that, and it has options too. So in the street, in an alley, you've got sidewalk repairs. So a lot of options there. It's very specific. And again, if you're filling this out, photos. They say that really helps to determine how bad a pothole is and the street. If it's busy, that's how they determine where they're going to send their crews. But yeah, it's very user friendly and simple, and
nice.
That's all you have to do. And I'll make sure we get that number to you too.
Yeah,
I don't want to
we'll
give
make
you the wrong
that.
phone
Make sure
number,
that's linked to your stories later today. But yeah, great app, and it's clear what they think is the number one priority. If potholes is right at the top, as do many drivers, I'm sure around the city agree with that as well. All right, Christina, thank you very much. I think we need to put an honorary sign out there. This is Christina's Pothole there near 4th and Virginia. What do you think?
Well, if you have any suggestions on if you have any other places that you think are an issue, send them our way.
I can certainly think of a couple right off the top of my head. So yeah, I'll get those to you, and I'm sure some viewers as well. All right, Christina, thank you very much. We'll let you get back to it. Appreciate you joining us here on the live desk.
Thanks, Carl.
There you go. Christina's Pothole sitting there in the Walker's Point neighborhood. Yeah, we'll be curious to see how long it takes to get something like that filled. But as she said, download the app. Pictures, pictures, pictures. Those are so important for what you're doing there. All right, we're going to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, see what we find. There's a couple different things, interesting things just getting started for Milwaukee Public Schools and some other news of note for those throughout Wisconsin. That's coming up next on the Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon. Carl Lefmaw still hanging with you for another 30 minutes or so before Kim Murphy takes over the second hour of today's Wisconsin Live Desk. Here with you every Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 2:30 Central Time on Fox Local or also on the FOX6 Milwaukee YouTube channel. However you're joining us, thanks a lot for checking out the Live Desk, a new venture that we're very proud of here at the station. Let me tell you about a few of the things we're monitoring for you right now, and then we'll get some more information on one of them in particular. But right now, we are awaiting the next press briefing here as I pull up some of the graphics for you from this horrible plane crash that happened in San Diego. Let me get you a little bit of information for that as you see the cameras getting focused and getting ready there at that. A number of people unfortunately have died on a private jet that crashed into military housing in San Diego. This was during foggy weather early this morning. Some of the cars, as you're seeing in the background behind those microphones there, caught on fire because of the explosion that followed. This is a suburban neighborhood block. It killed multiple people on board the plane. The plane can hold anywhere from 8 to 10 people, though it's not known yet how many were on the plane. in the one briefing so far, authorities are investigating whether the plane hit a power line. That was according to the assistant San Diego fire chief. This crashed just before 4 o'clock this morning local time, and this is the U.S. military's largest housing neighborhood. Appeared to hit at least one home there in the background. You can certainly see charred and a collapsed roof with that truck kind of smashed up into the side of the home. About 10 homes in total suffered damage. And now initially, authorities said no one was taken by emergency crews from the housing specifically, though after an initial news conference this morning, San Diego police officers said 5 people from a single family were hospitalized for smoke inhalation, actually. So not from the crash, but from smoke inhalation that followed. Another person treated at the hospital for injuries sustained while climbing out of a window trying to get free, and then 2 others had minor injuries at the scene. Now, so far, we also don't have details about the plane itself. San Diego officials say it was a flight from the Midwest, a Cessna jet that was scheduled to arrive, according to a flight tracking site, but we are hoping to learn much more in the latest update from officials. As you see them, it appears getting ready there at the podium. We do want to bring you that as soon as we can. In the meantime, we're also have some cameras down in Chicago, so keeping things in the Midwest as we go from San Diego back to Chicago, our neighbors to the south. The reason you're seeing so many cameras and reporters outside of this apartment building is because that is where the suspected shooter in another horrible story was supposed to live, a shooting that happened in Washington, D.C., that killed 2 staffers of the Israeli embassy outside of a Jewish museum. Those 2 were about to be engaged, in fact, and the suspect reportedly shouted "Free Palestine" as he was being arrested. Well, that suspect apparently lived in Chicago, so that's the reason we have a live camera in Chicago that we're tracking. Now, it appears that that briefing has just gotten back up in San Diego. Let's listen in and see what information we can get for you.
Council member Raul Campillo. Last name is Campillo. Does anybody have any questions?
One thing. And for Fire Chief Logan, it's Fire Chief Logan the second as well. Just wanted to double confirm.
I have that list if anybody needs it. If wants to take a picture of it.
All right, so it looks like as is normal in a situation like this, before the actual briefing begins, just telling the local reporters there who exactly will be speaking. Again, once that starts, we will bring that to you as well. We also have a couple cameras here locally for you. This is an interesting event happening right now on a much lighter tone as I keep an eye on things in San Diego for you. This is a waterway event where students are able to learn about what it takes to work on our local waterways. And let me get some more information for you. Our photographer is there checking this out this morning for you. Let me just keep an eye on things because those officials in San Diego seem close but not starting yet. So this waterways is called the We Work the Waterways, a national education outreach program hosting a bit of an industry interaction day. So high school sophomores on this day get to chat with different elements of the Milwaukee Recreation's Bulow Brinton Community Center. That's the host site for this, a presentation portion, lunch, and then this to follow. The event's supposed to be an interactive chance to immerse yourself in the maritime, shipping, and logistics industry. So a lot of potential jobs that students may not be familiar with, but get the chance to speak to the pros and see what's going on as they start to identify a possible future path. Interesting stuff happening in Milwaukee. And then let's get you back to San Diego, where one of those law enforcement officials has just stepped to the podium. Let's listen in to the latest after this deadly plane crash.
Next, I'm going to have my Assistant Chief, Dan Eddy, come up and explain the operations that took place moving forward from that point.
Morning, everyone. Crews arrived on scene just after 3:47, about 3:55 this morning. What they found was behind you, the scene that you see behind me right now. We had a plane that had come through this neighborhood, taken out one home. We had one home on fire, multiple cars on fire going down the street. We initiated what's called an Alert 5, which is an upgraded for a plane off the runway. We started the Alert 5, followed that with a second alarm to ensure we had all the units here. It's 3:45 in the morning. Our worry was the fact that people are home, people are living in their houses, and we want to ensure that we had all that done. We started initiating the fire attack while at the same time going inside each structure behind us and ensuring that they were cleared out and we had no one inside those structures. Once we had an all clear on those structures, we focused more back into the street on the cars that were on fire, because for us, our main concern is ensuring that we get the citizens out and get those rescues complete. Crews did a great job working with San Diego PD to start evacuating the neighborhood, and with the military to ensure that we are doing the right things to work with the military on that. Great coordination by all. We were able to get knocked down on the fire, start to work through and start to do secondary searches of the houses behind us and ensuring that everyone was out of those areas. We started an evacuation area to the north of us to one of the elementary schools and started to ensure that we had everyone out of those homes. After that was done, we started our recovery effort, which you see behind us. We're holding the scene for FAA and TSB to ensure that they can get the investigation done and no evidence is tampered with or moved at all. Once that is complete and their investigation is done, then we'll start moving back through and working with the military and San Diego PD to clear out the neighborhood and ensure that everything is complete. I'm going to pass it over to San Diego PD right now, Lieutenant Easter.
Hello. We received the phone call or the incident, and our officers, we responded and conducted evacuations in this area. Right now, this is still an active scene. So, roads are closed. If you're looking for updates, monitor our social media accounts, X, Facebook, Instagram. We will continue to provide updates on road closures and the conditions as this incident continues. On that note, I'm going to pass it on to Captain Robert Healy.
Spell your name, sir, before you go, please.
Easter, like the holiday.
Okay.
Hey, good morning. Captain Bob Healy, Naval Base San Diego Commanding Officer. Our primary objective remains the safety and security of our military families who live here in this neighborhood. Over the last couple hours, we've been able to connect with them to make sure that they are taken care of, and most of them have gone down to Miller Elementary, which is our evacuation site. Very pleased with the community response in addition to the city and local officials to provide all of the services that they need. Primarily, our job is to get them back into their homes as soon as possible. And we're working with Liberty Military Housing, who oversees this complex, to do just that. Hopefully, we expect people outside of this general area to get in by tonight, and then certainly this area will be down for some time based on NTSB investigation. We have continued to communicate through our Family Information Call Center at 844-523-2025. Liberty Military Housing has also released red flag messages to the families so they have the latest and greatest information. The base continues to message via our internal communication system as well as social media. Again, just want to thank the local community for supporting the military families and everyone for all that you've done. With that, I want to turn it over to Councilmember Capillo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raul Campillo. I represent City Council District 7, which includes the Tierra Santa neighborhood and Murphy Canyon neighborhood. San Diego is home to one of the largest installments of United States military active service members and veterans. And in this particular neighborhood, we had dozens of active duty families that are suffering, that suffered some injuries, and their homes have been destroyed. But the city of San Diego, our employees, along with the military and the school district, have been well coordinated from the early morning until now, and we will be throughout the rest of this tragedy. With the very sad loss of life from the plane, we know that there was many miracles and many heroic actions from our police department, from our firefighters and the military members themselves. I heard stories over at the school just near us about military families helping military families out of their home, jumping out of windows, avoiding fire. These are families that San Diego values, we're proud of, and we're going to continue to support these military families who are from all over the country but live right here in San Diego. As you can see, the damage behind us is incredibly significant, was life-threatening, and thank God nobody on the ground was killed. We're going to continue to support them through our City of San Diego personnel, our first responders, and I really encourage people to donate, to call in to our offices at City Council, the Mayor's office, to find out how to volunteer and help in ways like that. These people are going to be recovering for a long, long time, and the City of San Diego is going to be here to support them. Thank you for being here, and I know we're going to take some questions.
Okay, just a few questions.
Yes, I have a question regarding the recent tweet from the San Diego Police Department. It says that there are 2 dead now and 8 injured. Can you confirm that? And are the 2 dead from the plane?
At least.
So that is what we have at this time. That's what we release. And yes, that's why we put that out. So that can be confirmed at this time. That is the latest update. There will be a press release that will come out later on with that information as well.
Can you say that again? Can you repeat that number?
So to confirm, 2 dead at this time. And what was the rest of that?
And I'm sorry, 8 injured?
Yes, confirmed 2 dead and 8 injured at this time. We've lost 2 souls.
And of those, who was on the plane, who was on the ground?
That is still under the investigation at this time.
Do you know how many people were on the plane?
We're still discovering that.
And the people are injured? What are the state of these people are injured? Critical state, minor injuries?
Right now, they're still being evaluated.
I can step in on that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
On the injuries that we had the 2 confirmed fatalities right now. We do have 6 that were injured. 1 was transported of the 6. The other 5 had minor injuries, were treated on scene and released on their own. So right now, that's what we have right now. The investigation is behind me. On the fatalities is still going through.
Were all the deaths on the plane?
At this time, we don't know because we still have to identify who we have on the fatalities right now. But on the plane itself, that's what we'll do. That's why NTSB is here, working with other federal agencies to identify who's on the plane.
Were the injuries all that were on the ground?
Some of the injuries were people that were on the ground. All the injuries that we treated were people that were treated at the evacuation center. There was no one transported from scene. I can tell you this, the military families did a phenomenal job as firefighters were getting on scene to help one another, get people out of houses and go, and I cannot commend them enough for what they did on scene. For us on scene, we did not transport anyone off the scene. Everything was done at the evacuation centers for any of the medical needs that were done.
Can I just clarify?
1 person was transported, minor injuries was transported from the evacuation center.
So, sorry, can I just clarify on the numbers real quick, because we had, like you said, 2 dead, and then there's been varying numbers with the injured. So
Yeah.
if I understand it, it's 5 people were taken for, I was told, smoke inhalation to the hospital, and then we have someone who was injured climbing out of a window, so that would be 6, and then 2 people treated for very minor injuries at the scene, so that would make it 8. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. It is 8 total. I was thinking 8 in my mind of the 2 fatalities that were in there with the other one. So yes, it is 8 total on there.
Sir, for those of us that are out of town, can you explain to us a little bit about the community here? Is this temporary housing for the military families, or is this permanent housing for them?
So this is permanent. Yeah, if you want to say what they are.
Yeah, great question. So this is a military family housing neighborhood, and we have over about 2,300 family homes that are here in San Diego, and they work at various installations around the Metro San Diego region.
Temporary housing for them, or they?
Well, they are here as long as they're stationed here in the San Diego area, so it could be a year to many years.
Can we get confirmation on those numbers again, like
Yes,
how accurate and how it is, because the agencies got mixed up?
So how about this? What number did you just say right there?
Well, I don't want to.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. That's okay. All right, so we had 8 injured and we had 2 fatalities is where we're currently at right now. So 8 injured, 2 fatalities. 1 of those injuries was transported. That's our current numbers. We're still assessing. Our main goal as the fire department, especially with the evacuation center, as people who moved here, it could be hours later that people start feeling symptoms or start feeling what they're doing. So we have EMS teams with them the entire time. So that number could change as the day goes on too. There could have been something in the last 2 minutes as I walked up here. But in this current point right now, what we're going to do is follow those individuals that have been evacuated and make sure that everybody's okay throughout the whole thing.
Is the NTSB here? Do you know?
The NTSB, I believe, is en route right now. FAA is currently investigating behind us right now as they're walking through the scene.
How many people were destroyed? How many homes were actually destroyed?
So the one permanently destroyed is this one right here behind us. We have damage to multiple homes down to the west of us on the street. That damage will be assessed. Our main concern on that damage, I don't know the full extent of the damage because our job is to preserve the scene so NTSB can come in and do the investigation. We removed everybody from the scene, blocked it off right now. We will have better numbers on the full damage of homes after NTSB comes in and starts doing their investigation. It is just this block right now, but we have a large debris field that covers multiple streets.
There was dense fog this morning. What do we know? There's a clipped power line that's being reported. What do we know as this plane was landing toward Montgomery?
So as I came in this morning, when I came in this morning at about 4 o'clock, there was very dense fog as we came in. And some of the individuals are here were the same time. It was dense fog throughout the whole plateau that we had up here. We do have a clipped power line behind us. NTSB and FAA are looking into that to see if that was part of the problem as it came in. They will have a better understanding of that as they do the investigation.
Where are the military families going to be staying in the meantime? I know that you guys had mentioned they might be able to come back as early as today, but where are they going to be staying, especially in this destroyed home?
Yeah, we are actively working with all military families affected, specifically within this region, because they may be out of their homes for a while. So we're actively collaborating with Liberty Military Housing, as well as the Red Cross and others down at Miller Elementary to put them in proper lodging overnight. So that may be hotels. Some of them have chosen to stay with family and friends, so there's a lot of different options. But we will ensure that they have proper lodging tonight and all the support they need.
And the Navy will be footing that bill for them, or Liberty Housing?
We will properly care for them. Yes, ma'am.
Is this Navy-owned property, or is that correct to say? That Navy-owned
No, it's actually, it's San Diego jurisdiction here.
Okay, so it's, but it's Navy-owned housing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
For
And-
the fire about the airplane, there was a lot of talk. It was from the Midwest. Can you share what you've learned about the plane itself and possibly the people aboard?
No, all we had was that it was launched out of the Midwest and was here for San Diego. The FAA or NTSB might have more factual information. I don't have a wing number, any of those other things that are on there. What we know is it was launched from the Midwest, was en route to here, and then we got the call at 3:45 in the morning.
How many was Montgomery Field closed at that time? I mean, Air Tower controlled?
Air Tower was controlled, but they have the ability to come in with it being closed by being able to radio in and open up the lights on the runway.
There's a report that the weather system was not working, and the air traffic control told the pilot coming in that it wasn't working. Have you heard that? Do you know anything about that?
I know nothing about that. I know the rescue side of it, and we came through. Hopefully FAA or NTSB will have that answer for you.
Do you believe that anybody on the plane survived?
I don't know on that point right now. I can tell if you look behind me right now, I don't know on that point, but no, I don't believe so.
How many passengers there were? Victims so far?
No, I don't.
How many of the injured are from this house?
Any of the injured are from this house behind. I can't really say if they're injured from this house behind. I have to keep that private.
Were all of the homes occupied?
I believe all the homes were occupied. We did searches of every single home as we came through. This military housing area that is here is constantly occupied all the time. It's a very busy area, but I believe all of them were occupied.
How many passengers were aboard the plane?
We don't know how many passengers.
I don't know. If you look at the plane, the path that it took behind me here, you can see that its trajectory came through this direction, took out the front of that house, and it ended up here to the right behind me.
When I walked around, I didn't find any big body of the plane. I saw like a little bit of fiberglass over there on Santos Street, and then of course this panel out here. But is there any other part of the plane that what parts of the plane are still out here?
There's plane everywhere. Our debris field is very large. That's why we have multiple blocks that are blocked off right now. As you guys would expect, when you have something that large coming in with that amount of speed, we're going to have a lot of throw that goes every which direction. Our goal with this is to fly our UAS, which you saw, which are unmanned aerials, over the top, to ensure we're looking over the tops of the houses. We're looking everywhere in our neighborhood for any type of debris. I can't give you a field because we're still searching ourselves to find out what that footprint is.
So you don't know if there's a big part of the body that's out there somewhere?
That's not for my investigation. We're just looking through it and seeing.
Can you tell us how dangerous it was with that jet fuel? And also, I believe you have one vehicle that firefighters couldn't put out. I don't know if that was an electrical vehicle. Can you just tell us the challenges you faced?
Yeah, so the challenges on scene like this are just like anything else. They're incredibly dynamic, right? As we're coming in, we have a plane that has crashed into a residential area. So our goal on this is we treat this a lot like a wildfire. We're going to division it off. We're going to section it off. We're going to send multiple units to different areas. We're actually going to throw the world at this too. We're going to bring every medical unit that we can and every engine that we can because we want to ensure the safety of the citizens that are here, right? When crews first got on scene, we had multiple cars on fire. We had the house on fire behind us as it was going down the street. The car that was down the left, I don't know whether it was an electrical car or not. I just know that it was stubborn as can be, and no matter what we could do, we could not get that fire to finally go out as we were going through it. But when crews first arrived, we did have dense fog, so as they came down, you can imagine the scene of what they saw with what was behind them, a house fully involved with a plane through the middle of the street. So it was, I commend the crews, I commend the fire department, the police department, the military that came out here, the citizens themselves too, because anybody, it's tragic to see that behind you. Whether you're involved in it, and I feel for the people that are in the plane that had that were a part of this, but whether you're involved in it or not, just normal citizens that are here, they're going to remember this the rest of their lives. But they did what they always do. The citizens of San Diego are amazing. They came out and covered for one another and took care of one another.
How many families were evacuated?
I don't know how many families were evacuated right now. We can get you that number lately.
Can you describe what it was like for first responders when they first got here, and what was their priority as soon as they got to to the scene?
So our main goal when we are on scene is life. We want to save life, right? So first crews that got on scene and the engines that got on scene found the house on the corner that was on fire, immediately started to search that house and knock down on that house because they know that that's our top priority as we go through to see if someone's in there. Our goal was to get through every single house that we could and search them to make sure that everybody was out. Once we were confident in every single one of those houses being cleared, then we focused back into the middle of the street and started focusing on the cars, property, right? Life is our #1 priority, so we're going to go for those first and ensure that we have any sort of rescues that we need to initiate and get them out. Those crews did that with multiple units down both sides of the street, and then you never know. We could have stuff thrown in both directions, and as we go through those directions, we put multiple engines and trucks down our side streets to search those streets too.
Was that home occupied?
The home was occupied at the time,
Do you
yes.
know how many people were in there?
No, I don't.
And what happened? What did you hear about how they got out?
So what I heard is just like anything. It was, for me, it's a little bit of a miracle, right? A plane hits your house. I don't know exactly how they got out, but I do know that neighbors helped them get out, and that's the beauty of what I love in this neighborhood too. And military looking out for one another. They did exactly what they did to try to help each other.
Was it a family?
I believe so.
And that this is a military community.
Yeah.
How crucial is the fact that they're trained for emergencies, they're trained for complicated things? Do you think that played a role in making sure that they were helping each other and making sure that everybody was safe?
I think it absolutely does. I think any sort of that background that you have behind you, right, to help you stay calm in a stressful situation, just like the military, just like San Diego PD or any other public safety that's out there, I think it helped. And so as we came into this neighborhood, you could see that. You could see the love for one another in this neighborhood.
When you say it was a family, do you know if there were children in this home?
No, I don't.
Can you confirm the time of the impact again?
We got the first call at 3:47 a.m. is when the first call came into our dispatch center.
I have 2 questions. Does it appear that a plane hit the house actually or clipped it or something?
No, that'll be for NTSB to decide when they get here and see if it actually hit the house or not. That's not for us to investigate on it. When my crews first got on scene, they did a great job to just attack the fire and get after it.
And did you guys see when you're on scene that the jet fuel, was it in flames just rolling down the street as the cars ignited?
I can tell you when I got on scene, you could see about 40 feet to 50 feet ahead of you. So if it's rolling down the street, I don't know whether it was rolling down the street. What I do know is when I got here, I saw multiple cars on fire, and that area was just getting knocked down by our crews.
Is there any timetable of when we could hear from the FAA? Because we've been here since early this morning, and we heard that they would come to speak with us sometime soon, but now we're in our 3rd press briefing, and we still haven't heard from them.
I don't, not for me to say, I don't know. I do tell you this much behind me, that they are investigating behind, and I will try to get someone back here. We'll work with our PIO to get someone back here for you.
When do you think it would be safe for people to come back given the strong smell?
We did have a clipped power line off our main line out there. We still have good power from SDG&E has assured us that we still have proper power running through the area through here, but yes, it was a main line that was hit.
Approximately how many houses were evacuated? Just a number?
I don't know. I don't know on that side. It was multiple. We evacuated everything south of here. Every single house south was evacuated. 2 blocks west was evacuated all the way to the 15, and 1 block north was evacuated to us. For us, we wanted to make sure that we had everybody out, so if anything did start to grow or anything changed, that everybody was out of their house.
Someone described it like a movie when they arrived. Can you kind of give us a description of what it felt like, smelled like?
You smell this? You smell this right behind me right now? What you smell right now of that burning, that's what you're coming into. You smell that off-gassing as it's coming here with the sun and everything starting to push up. It's, for us, for public safety, we're used to that smell, right? We're used to those types of things that are out there. For the public, I'm sure it was. If you only look 50 feet behind me, your mind would start thinking of things anyway. So imagine that when it was actually occurring. Yes, it was chaotic.
This is not the first time that we have a plane crash. Compared to the other ones that have been more to eastward, and this being in a community, I mean, how do you rank it? You know,
I can't rank. I won't rank anything. What I will say is the amount of incredible work that is done by first responders that come out here, whether it be a plane that's out in the middle of nowhere, whether we have brush fires or anything else. I can't rank a plane crash because to me that's my heart couldn't let me do that, right? Type thing. What I do know is that when we came out of here, the best outcome that we had for individuals that are on the ground, I feel for the family that is in that plane and what they're going through right now. I can only imagine that. But on the ground itself and the individuals here in military housing, we had one of the best outcomes that I could possibly say that came from this, because when I was coming on scene, I did not expect that same outcome as I got here.
Okay, guys, that's going to be enough. We're going to provide more information electronically. We don't have another media briefing planned yet, but we'll let you guys know, but like I said, we'll provide more information electronically as it develops. We can't speak for FAA, we can't speak for MTSB. I'm sure they have their own public affairs officers that you can reach out to.
What the crews will do to make it safer with the smell?
But again, so we'll let you guys know. That's one of the reasons why it's evacuated, to keep people away from the smells and whatever hazardous issues there may be here. So it'll, as the chief mentioned, it'll be evacuated and cordoned off for quite a while. So again, we'll release information electronically. Thank you.
And there you have it, some of the latest from officials there in San Diego after this horrible private plane crash early this morning. You heard the member of the fire department there in San Diego saying the first calls came in just before 4 a.m. for this, and then they get there, their vehicle's on fire, that house on fire as well. And still, as you heard from some of the reporters there, plenty of questions still to be answered as investigators look into this. I believe the numbers, they kind of went back and forth a little bit. I believe the numbers from that fire official there were 2 fatalities and 8 other people injured, and it's still unclear whether the injuries and the fatalities came from people on board that plane or from some of the homes that were hit by debris after the plane crash in that neighborhood of military housing in San Diego early this morning. Still to be determined where that plane was coming from as well. The fire official said from the Midwest, but we don't have the exact flight path or details on how many people were on board that plane. But we know there were at least 2 people who died, a number of others injured after this crash in a San Diego neighborhood. We're going to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, try to get you back to some local news, some other things happening around the region, around the country after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk here as we approach the 1:30 half hour. We're getting ready to hand things off to Kim Murphy, who's standing by. We're going to take you out, I believe this is Washington, D.C., where the State Department spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, just started taking questions from the media there, a weekly briefing that she holds with media members on a variety of topics, handling State Department policy and, of course, U.S. foreign policy around the world. So let me get the audio up for you on that, and we'll listen in to Tammy Bruce, the State Department spokesperson here, as we switch things off on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Kim Murphy with you after this.
And their actions against Israel. It creates a picture that is worthwhile having a conversation in the Oval Office. And that is, I think, it is the transparency of the president. Certainly, both leaders aware of what the concerns have been and what the arguments have been. So I don't think President Ramaphosa was somehow surprised or shocked at the fact that we have an honest man who's in the White House who's spoken and continued to speak about violence and the trajectory of South Africa.
Well, what I'm just suggesting is that the facts matter with the credibility of the president, and that as it was explained in the Oval Office, and it has been explained elsewhere, that is a minority party, a protest party that is legally permissible, but that the white agricultural minister said in the Oval Office, that's why we joined the coalition, to make sure that they didn't get into the parliament, that they don't have power. They've been, they've been opposed.
The nature of the weeds of something like that, where that individual, you saw also the larger video of the thousands and thousands of individuals in a stadium framework. And I think that what Americans in the world and what South Africans see is a movement and an attitude that is not only not punished, but reinforced, but Andrea, reinforced with a law that says, oh, those people that you're calling to have be killed, yeah, let's take their land. Who does that? Who does that in the midst of that environment? And I think that when we think about, I'm not certainly going to get ahead of the president. President Trump is someone that the world knows, says what he thinks and acts on what he thinks. But I think that it was very clear, and he's been clear, as has the secretary, about the problems with South Africa, the nature of the signals that it sends, the quality or lack thereof of life, the fact that we have taken in refugees, very basic standard of looking for asylum. They've met that standard, and it's more than just complaining. It is about acting and finding an element where we can make a difference for those people.
Taking of a land, first of all, it's with judicial review when it has happened. It's not.
Now, let me correct you right there, Andrea, and then I'm going to move on. This particular law they tout has not even been implemented yet.
That's correct.
So it's not about judicial review. The law, if you have a judicial review of a law that says there is no standard, well, then you'll have judicial review of no standard.
But they have not taken
all right,
the land.
but this, and it is in part, I would argue, because of the global attention that has been placed on them because of President Donald Trump's attitude, his comments, and bringing attention to that framework in general. That is why that hasn't been acted on. And I will move on, but I think I've been clear. Yes, Matt, I think you have probably something to say. Yeah, Andrea, you've had 4 questions. I've answered them. You've asked in depth. We are going to move on. Yes, sir. I'm sure others might have the same sort of question.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Tammy. 2, I think, should be quick ones on sanctions. One, can you just explain the discrepancy or apparent discrepancy between what Secretary Rubio tweeted last night on Venezuela sanctions and what Special Envoy Grinnell said? The Secretary saying that the Chevron waiver would not be extended, and Special Envoy Grinnell saying it would be. And then just secondly, on Syria sanctions. Just what's the status of the relief that the President promised last week? Thank you.
Well, I can tell you that the Secretary did put up a tweet making it clear where we stand on Chevron, which is a license which is due to expire in May. And what I will speak to is not what others have said, but certainly the people who are in charge of the nature of what we're doing, and that is Secretary Rubio, making it clear that that license is going to expire. And so that's what I take my lead from, is his remarks in that regard. So there's no confusion. I think many people on every issue can have a lot of opinions, but I think clearly who we look to are the people who have the power to have the impact and who make the decision. And of course, this is at the direction of President Trump as well. About Syria, yes, it was a very exciting moment. I was in Riyadh and in the building when President Trump announced that he was lifting the sanctions on Syria. That is something that we've discussed, and many people have wondered when that would occur. And clearly the president decided now was the time. And I do know that, of course, there's a team of people who immediately started working on that, who are working on it now. There is, of course, it's worth noting that the president has some powers in the nature of what can get done, but sanctions are administered through different departments in this country. So his was a message, and certainly the order to reverse our dynamic, to remove the sanctions.
Good afternoon, I'm Kim Murphy, and this is the second hour of Wild, our Wisconsin Live Desk. You've been listening to the press briefing from the State Department on a number of questions. This is when members of the media get a chance to just volley the spokesperson with questions related to tariffs, security, policies, and so on and so forth. That's just one of the things that we are following this afternoon. There's so many big stories that have happened this morning, both locally and nationally. The first that we want to get to, we're going to take you to a shot from Chicago right now. This is the latest developments. Their investigators are now saying that there is a Midwest tie to the Israeli embassy staff members who were killed in a shooting outside the Jewish Museum in D.C. last night. A couple were attending an event. A man was pacing outside. That's what witnesses say. He then opened fire, and then upon his arrest, shouted, "Free Palestine, free Palestine." And so this man now has been identified as a 31-year-old from Chicago. His name is Elias Rodriguez. And so we're waiting to find out more about, what investigators have revealed so far about his motive, other than what was reported that he yelled upon his arrest, "Free Palestine." But the couple were part of the Israeli embassy staff in Washington, D.C. They had plans to marry. There was a proposal that was coming imminently. And so this is just sending shockwaves not only through the country, but also overseas. Security has been increased in so many areas. Jewish synagogues and buildings that might be potential targets. But what we can tell you this afternoon is that a 31-year-old man from Chicago has now been identified as the shooter. His name, Elias Rodriguez. The shooting, again, just sending shockwaves throughout the country. The other story that we have been following this morning, and that has to do with a plane crash in San Diego this morning. A small plane crashed into a neighborhood which primarily houses military staff. This plane, we're still waiting to find out more. We were expecting a briefing from authorities on the investigation, but what we can tell you is that multiple people were on board the plane at the time of the crash. We know that the plane can hold between 8 and 10 people. Right now, it's not known how many people were on board that plane, but we do know that the crash happened around 4 a.m. this morning into a military housing neighborhood. The news that we have is that there were a number of homes that were damaged as a result of this crash, but no significant serious injuries have been reported among those people who were in those homes. And so that is a little bit of good news. But as far as survivors of that crash on that small plane, we have waiting to get more information on exactly how many people were on board at the time and exactly what happened at 4 o'clock in the morning that brought this plane crashing into a San Diego neighborhood. Now, another story that we're also following, and this one is local. It has been almost 2 weeks since the Highland Court fire, where 5 people lost their lives and hundreds more have been forced out of their apartment units. Those people still have not been allowed into their units to find out exactly what is left, what they can salvage, how much damage, if they'll ever be able to actually go back to their apartment units. This morning, Milwaukee Alderman Bob Bauman issuing a statement saying that this is unacceptable, that these people should have access by now. Sunday will be 2 weeks since this tragic fire, and these people are just left in limbo, not really knowing if they have anything to come back to. And the statement is from the alderman saying that the fire and the immediate investigation into this has barred tenants from returning to their units to gather belongings and inspect the damage. But the landlord must now allow those tenants to, where it's safe to do so, return to their homes as soon as possible. So you just can imagine what it must be like, the trauma of first surviving a fire, knowing that your neighbors, your apartment neighbors, that 5 people did not escape that fire with their lives, and then that trauma being compounded by the fact that you can't get into your unit to find out if you have anything left. That fire happened on May 11th. It's been extremely traumatic, not only for the people who lived at Highland Court, but also for their loved ones. This is still an active investigation as to what caused this fire and any details surrounding that. So that's another story that we are following this afternoon. And then we have to get to the early morning passage of President Trump's big, beautiful budget. It passed narrowly by one vote, with all Democrats voting against it, and it passed by one vote. It happened early this morning, so the session went all last night, all overnight, till this morning when it was finally passed, and the president already this morning taking a victory lap, saying that he had confidence that this would pass. But here's the situation. There are a lot of components to this that people need to understand what this means for you. You hear budget in Washington and you're not always sure what exactly that means. Well, we're going to try to break it down for you here. The first thing is that this will end taxing on overtime. If you are someone who works in the service industry and you earn tips, this bill would get rid of those types of taxes, so you wouldn't have to pay taxes on your overtime, you wouldn't have to pay taxes on your tips. It also provides tax cuts. It increases the standard deduction for people. So all of this sounds like good news. It would expire, however, in 2028, which is also at the end of President Trump's term. Democrats, however, warning that this is not all that it seems to be, and their concern is that this bill, if it passes, and it's now going on to the Senate, that it will force millions of people off of Medicaid and food assistance because of some of the provisions that are in this bill. The first provision, it would reduce the spending on food aid. So those who receive food aid may not qualify under this new bill. It would also expand the work requirements for Medicaid. So right now the requirement is 54 years old. It would expand that work requirement to the age of 64. So again, this could affect a lot of people, their eligibility to get food stamps and to get other kind of health care benefits. And so that is a concern. We heard from Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin. She was joined by New York Senator Chuck Schumer and Georgia's Senator Raphael Warnock yesterday, sounding the alarm, saying that this bill will be devastating to millions. But going back to the GOP, President Trump calling this his big, beautiful bill, touting the tax cuts that this bill calls for. The hardliners who were threatening to hold this whole thing up, the Freedom Caucus, which we're learning, interestingly, that there are so-called 5 families in the House of Republicans, and their different caucuses, and the Freedom Caucus is the most hardline. They wanted to see more cuts. They say that this bill doesn't go far enough in cutting our deficit and our spending. They wanted the work requirement to go in effect sooner than it's slated to go, and they also wanted clean energy tax credits to be ending right away. That was something that they were holding out for. So there was some wrangling into the wee hours, and around 6 o'clock, I believe, our time is when that bill finally passed. So that's one big thing that also happened out of Washington. And then we have to talk about what's happening with the Department of Education. I have a lot of friends, I'm sure you have a lot of friends, who are teachers, who work in higher education, and there's been a lot of turmoil and uncertainty on whether or not their positions would continue, what would be funded in the coming year, whether there would be a Department of Education, where this morning a judge blocked the Trump's administration's executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. And not only that, ordered the agency to reinstate all those employees who were fired or laid off during the mass DOGE cuts. And so this is big news for a lot of people, educators, those who work under grants. Their positions are funded through educational systems, through grants. This seems to be a reprieve for now. A judge is saying that the White House does not have the ability to dismantle the funding or the department for the Department of Education, and then all those people who were fired or laid off, they must be reinstated. So we're also it's kind of quiet right now on the matrix, as we call it, and that's when we look around and we see what exactly is going on in our different cameras that we have access to. We're going to take a quick break. We also have a shot from outside the federal courthouse where the Diddy trial is going on. One of the anticipated testimonies on the witness stand, the rapper known as Kid Cudi. He's going to talk about his brief relationship with Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and what light he can shed on their relationship and what interactions he may or may not have had with Diddy. So we're going to take a quick break. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk, or WILD as we call it.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Thursday. We're going to take another dip into the State Department briefing where we get some answers. It's a open house, you could say, for the State Department or for reporters, where they can ask questions on a variety of things that deal with the State Department, a variety of issues, whether that be tariffs, whether that be TSA security. So let's take a listen to a little bit more of that news conference, which is happening right now.
Well, it's very clear what I've also just said a little earlier, and we've said in multiple briefings. The goal is to end the inability for them to have a nuclear weapon, to change and end the enrichment of their nuclear program and the intentions of that nuclear program. So it's a significant structural change in what Iran thinks it's going to be doing. And that's the negotiations. I think they've been very clear about what the intentions are.
And just one follow-up on a different topic, but this is just coming out now from
oh, not another one.
Homeland Security. No, don't
not
worry.
Not another one.
Not like last time.
Okay, good.
But Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that DHS is now terminating Harvard's ability to allow any foreign students to enroll in the university, saying in a statement that the administration is holding Harvard accountable for fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party. This is obviously a program that isn't run out of the State Department, but some of these J-1 visas are issued by the State Department. So can you shed some light on this decision by the administration?
We've seen those reports. and we're looking at them, and I can't answer that immediately, but as soon as we might have an answer, I can get it to you. I'm sure that when we get our answer, we'll get it to everybody. But yeah, so I've seen those reports, and I would also refer you, of course, to DHS and to Secretary Noem, who might have more details, more answers for you. Saeed, nice to see you again. I hope it's nice to see you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Yes,
really
sir.
quick, two quick follow-ups. One on Andrea,
Yes.
on South Africa, and then one on Gaza.
Sure.
On South Africa, you said that the president was also influenced by what South Africa has done in terms of referring, its role
I said we all
with the
have been.
ICC.
We all have been, yes.
Yeah, well, its role with the
package.
ICC.
Yes.
Just to clarify that. So he was because South Africa referred Israel to the ICC.
Well, I did not say for a specific event
Right,
that influenced him. I don't speak,
No.
President Trump is a very clear man.
Right.
No one has to wonder his position. But I think for all of us who've been looking at the condition of South Africa, it's never just one thing, is it? It's a number of things. I'll finish. I know you might not be liking my answer, but I'll finish. Saeed, it is a series of things that point to the intention of an administration or of a regime, and it is usually consistent. So if you're wondering about the nature of why it matters that people are at a huge stadium shouting "Kill the Boer," which are for those at home, the Dutch descendants of the settlers of South Africa, and who are white farmers. Combined then with the government that says, oh, we reject that, they're not part of our government, but then pass a law that allows the government to take the property of those very same people simply because they're white farmers. So that speaks to the intention of a regime, in addition to their behavior with other nations, their foreign policy, how they would view the victims of October 7th, the Jews, as those who should be referred to a criminal court versus Hamas, in addition to having a rather cozy relationship with Iran. So you don't need to be in a seminar at Stanford to understand and to recognize the trajectory of South Africa. That is the argument for those who are looking at that, again, beyond one issue. And I think those issues speak quite loudly.
And very quickly on Gaza.
Yes.
Now, the Israelis are saying they allowed maybe 6 trucks or 9 trucks, we don't know. And international agencies say no trucks were allowed in. Could you clarify if you have the information? Have any trucks been allowed in? The number of trucks, if you know the number, and so on. And what's next in terms of figures and numbers?
Well, I won't share numbers with you, but what I can tell you, and you know this, having covered this situation,
Right.
that Israel's been honest about the nature of what it's been doing and why, as it fights for its security and in its own defense. If you're getting a report from Israel about the nature of what has moved into the region, I would suggest that you should take that report seriously. I think that everyone knows that the eyes of the world are on that region, and at the same time, the story is, what I would argue, is, as opposed to the numbers, is the fact that aid is moving in to Gaza. And it's interesting to me, Saeed, that is something that I've talked with you, and we've even had some sort of fights about. And that isn't something that has been recognized, but I'll do that recognizing, and that's what the real story is. Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah. Thank you, Tommy. Kurdish delegation led by Karachi Prime Minister Masoud Barzani is in town. They have signed 2 energy deals with the U.S. companies valued at $110 billion US. These 2 deals have been rejected by the Iraqi government. I'm wondering if you have any comments and reaction to that. And do you have anything to share with us about his scheduled meeting with Secretary Rubio tomorrow?
Well, I can tell you that we were pleased to see Prime Minister Barzani sign massive deals with U.S. companies to expand natural gas production in the Iraqi Kurdistan region, which will help Iraq harness its own domestic resources to become energy independent, which we've, again, talked about. It's really great. We've talked about these things. Often I can't give you answers. We don't know when it's going to happen. And then to be able to report to you that it has happened. And that is a key administration priority. And being energy independent is obviously a major national security issue. So these deals, I think it's like over $100 billion.
110.
And yes, and it's that's what we've all been working for. So we support these deals, and we have encouraged Baghdad and Erbil to work together to get gas production to commence as soon as possible. At the same time, we have, of course, the declaration that these are null and void, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is the kind of shenanigans that can be a problem. But we also
You have been listening to the State Department briefing with Tammy Bruce, again being peppered with a number of questions on a number of topics. One of the questions was in related to the meeting between President Trump and South Africa's president yesterday, which became quite testy, with President Trump insisting that there is a genocide happening in South Africa of white farmers, which is a baseless claim, and the State Department spokesperson saying that there is crime that does involve white farmers and that there should be laws then passed to protect farmers. So that was just a carryover from yesterday. I want to now take you to the airport. My goodness, looks so much better than it has in so many days. This is a big weekend for folks. It's the unofficial start of summer, and some people may be deciding to take a quick trip someplace, get out of town, get away from these clouds. And it's not looking too bad right now. Why would you want to leave this place? But TSA says if you are leaving, there are some things to keep in mind. Remember, we made that big hoopla about the real ID. Make sure that you have the real ID or an acceptable form of identification, and you have it out to show the officer so you don't hold up the other travelers who are behind you. Those who don't have a state-issued real ID or an acceptable form of ID, you can still travel, but you just have to go through a special security line and have your identity identified, and that could really hold you up, and you don't want that. But some good news from the Department of Transportation, or I should say TSA. They say that about 93% of passengers so far are presenting a real ID at the airport, such as that or a passport. And passengers 18 and older are required to present a TSA-accepted form of identification at TSA checkpoints. So the little ones, not so much, but if you are 18 years or older, you have to. And as this holiday weekend kicks off, just pack your patience, because we are starting the start of the summer travel season. And if that means you're flying, ensure that your carry-ons are organized. I cannot tell you, you cannot bring liquids still. The last time I flew through Atlanta Hartsfield, this woman clearly had been visiting her family, and they had packed her with like all kinds of like homemade sauces and so on and so forth. Let me tell you, they took every single one of those sauces out of that woman's bag. And she's like, this one, the lotions, the sauces, you cannot travel with that. So mail it to your destination on the other side, but you can't travel through the airport. And TSA will be going through your bags as they normally do. So if it's been a minute since you have flown, know that those rules are still in effect. We're going to take a quick break and reset. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Okay, cool. Just make sure.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to Wild, and it's a Thursday, and let's bring in the one and only Stephanie Barrichello, because this is such a big travel weekend, Steph. So let's, first of all, I got to ask you, is the rain, is it moving out?
Oh, thank goodness it is, Kim. What a crazy stretch the last 2 days. Over 3 inches in a lot of spots. I'm going to be honest with you. I think my rain gauge is in as good as a spot as it could. I had over 4.5 inches
oh my gosh.
at my house. So I don't know, maybe a little excessive, but I would not be surprised if there were other spots that were, similar to me. But yes, the rain is done. There's a slight chance for a sprinkle going forward today, but that's about it. The holiday weekend looks beautiful, just a little cooler than average.
Let's talk about the big event that's going on to the south of us, the Indy races.
Yes.
Are they going to luck out, or are there going to be some rain delays?
That one I think could be iffy. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a rain delay. So that's the Indy 500. It's actually going to be right here on Fox 6. So that's exciting. I think for the first time, if I'm correct on that it's airing on Fox. But that's Sunday morning in Indianapolis. And there is the chance for some morning showers. So we'll see. I think it's a little iffy at this point, but it is very possible that there might be at least a brief delay in that race.
Gosh, okay. I know some folks are just so amped. And I'm amped because our Donovan Long went and got a little preview of the track, and it's been amazing just to see the fans that are young fans.
I know. It seems like such a family thing, and similar with NASCAR. I'm more familiar with NASCAR than I am with the Indy 500 type cars, but it's such a generational thing. I think if your family or your parents love it, you're going to grow up loving it, and it's very intimate, I think. People are huge fans, and they're there for the qualifiers, they're there for the race itself, they camp out in the parking lots. It's kind of like tailgating for one of our games.
And it is such a sport. On Wake Up, we've had drivers come through, and the physicality, the athleticism they're going at top speeds, and they've got to control that car. You talk about a core workout.
Right.
So I'm very impressed. So the more I learn about the sport, the more I'm into it.
And they're just squished in this little car, like you said,
and
going
it's hot
so fast.
Yes.
On such a hot day. Yeah, I don't envy them. I'm amazed.
Okay, and so another thing I wanted to touch base with you, NOAA issued its 2025 hurricane prediction for the Atlantic. And so what are we thinking?
From what I've seen so far, they are predicting a more active season. I haven't fully looked into it, but last year it wasn't the most active season, but we still had 3, especially 2 really big storms. So I do think when we're looking at such a big outlook, it kind of is similar to when we look out, a month in advance at what temperatures and precipitation are going to be. We're looking at trends, but things could still change. Regardless, there's still a lot of cleanup even from last season in those Gulf Coast states, especially in the Western Carolinas. Now, I know that was a different type of storm. We don't really see inland flooding that badly like we did with Helene last season, but hurricane season starts June 1st. So we are nearing the start to hurricane season. Those warm water, the water is already warm, ocean waters, I should say, and they're going to continue, of course, to climb from here, and that's what you need to fuel some strong hurricanes. So it'll be absolutely a wait and see as the season goes on, but it is absolutely possible that we deal with more devastation in the coming months.
You bring up 2 things, Helene, and we've had reports from our national Fox reporters periodically checking back, and they are still devastated. There are still areas that don't have running water, that don't have electricity, and we just, hurricanes and severe weather, I think, are taking on an even greater importance because we're realizing that a storm can start states away and still have devastating effects, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, and I think just the intensity of these storms, they might be more isolated in some seasons. Like, last year we had just, really those 2 really strong storms, not a ton of storms, but the intensity of them, they were devastating. So I think between the tornadoes we've seen the last couple of weeks down south, and remember, those have been day after day after day. It is a similar impact to hurricanes. There's just going to be, with all of these really intense events going forward, a lot of cleanup. And there's always the possibility that they get hit more than once, especially when it comes to severe weather. You know, was it last weekend or early this week, we were talking about Kentucky, or not Kentucky, excuse me, Oklahoma and northern Texas, how they started with severe weather. They're dealing with a little bit more severe weather today. So it's the time of year, absolutely. You know, we've got the heat, we've got the humidity, especially down south, but I do think, you know, it's clear that the intensity of these, whether they're hurricanes or tornadoes, it's picking up.
Okay, now I'm going to switch gears on you. I'm going to tap your parent brain.
Yes.
Have you heard of Stitch Possible?
Stitch Possible?
Yeah. It's this weekend. So, you know, there was Barbenheimer
yeah.
in 2023.
Oh, okay.
And it was
I know where you're
Barbie
going.
and Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
It's Stitch Possible because the live action movie Lilo and Stitch is coming out with Mission Impossible.
Wow.
So it's Stitch Possible.
Okay, were you a Lilo and Stitch? Have you seen Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah, I've seen it, but
okay, thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page. I can already tell.
Yeah, he wasn't the most lovable. I mean,
no, it's a little scary too.
He is. He's like this blue rat
thing. Yeah.
And now he's going to be live action.
I guess I just don't really understand the popularity around this film because it did. I mean, even over the last couple of years, you're seeing all those clothing items with Lilo and Stitch on them again.
Right.
Lilo is cute as can be.
Right.
Stitch,
not so much.
No.
So they're coming out this weekend with Memorial Weekend. I guess has become like the big box office, like the launch of the summer blockbusters, and so it's here already. Wow. I have seen Tom Cruise like pop up here and there. I'm like, what is going on? Oh, it's because Mission Impossible is coming out again.
There's another one?
There's another one. He's got to be on 10.
I mean, basically.
Yeah. So your girl's not so much interested in going to see.
Yeah, probably not this one. I think the live action would probably be a little too real. We've seen the cartoon.
Yeah.
They like it. It's okay.
Yeah.
But honestly, Kim, we are still on our 50th time going through Moana 2.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Moana's
I know every
big.
word. Every word.
I like Moana. I'm going to go back old school. I think Tangled.
Oh, good one.
Is my favorite and doesn't get enough, recognition. So I'd always go to that. But yeah, if you hear Stitch Possible, that's what they're talking about.
There you go. It is a good weekend to head to the movies.
It is. All right, Steph, thanks for spending some time with me.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break on the Wisconsin Live Desk and resets.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are keeping an eye on the situation in Chicago right now. This is in regards to the shooting, the killings of a couple outside the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. It was an attack. There were people there. They were at an event, and a person opened fire, killing these two young people who worked at the embassy. And we are finding that there is a possible Midwest connection. Investigators are now saying that the 31-year-old gunman, identified as Elias Rodriguez, is a Chicago native. And you're taking a live look at his home, where his last address is listed. And just a moment ago, there was a gaggle of reporters on the street waiting for more information, possibly from investigators. Of course, this is just one of two active scenes. You have the scene in D.C. outside of the museum where the attack happened, and now this, the focus right here in our own backyard in the Midwest. We're going to see if we can kind of bump up the audio here to listen to see if we can.
Yeah, you would never expect this. You know,
would he smile? What was his demeanor like when you see him?
Yeah. Never made first. How long did he live here? I think like a couple of years. I think talk about Palestine. You know, just if I can get through here, I promise I will come back.
We can have him step to the rake.
Yeah, we can have him step. We can have him step into the rake.
That's a good idea.
Do we have enough? Yeah.
You're hearing reporters speaking to someone, not sure if this is a resident or someone who's involved in the investigation. From the early comments that we just heard, it sounds like he lived here. So let's listen.
Yeah, I just, as you see, I was released.
So give us your name first, if you don't mind.
Yes, my name is John Wayne Frost.
Can you spell that for us?
JohnWayneFry.
And you live next door?
Yes, I live in apartment 1N, and they live in apartment 1S.
Okay. Elias?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about him?
My interaction with Elias was infrequent. We would meet in the hallway, or meet in the vestibule, checking our mailbox. He was always friendly. On the outside of his door, there's a Hello Kitty sign. I mean, he seemed like a normal, friendly guy. There's a picture in his window. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah.
I'll find me. Yes, it's a picture of the Palestinian child who was stabbed to death. And that gave me the impression that they were very, very sensitive people, especially about the issue of Palestine.
When you talk to me about it? When you say they, did he live there with someone else? Or?
Yes, there's a woman who lived there. I don't know the relationship.
Had you ever heard him mention Palestine or something?
No, in fact, I regret that. I wish that I had an opportunity to talk with him, because if I had, I would have talked him out of it.
How long did were you surprised to hear what happened yesterday?
Yes, I really was, because as you can see, I'm an old man. And I learned during the Vietnam War, you don't stop war with guns and bombs. You stop wars by going to your neighbors, talking to your neighbors, And there's something more powerful than a bullet, something more powerful than a bomb. It's called a vote. That is how you win.
Do you know how long he's lived here and how long?
Couple years.
And how long have you lived here?
Oh, gee, good now. Since 20.
Do you remember the last one? Have police talked to you? Did you see police or teams inside as you were going to your apartment?
Yes, but there wasn't much I could tell them.
And what did you see when you were walking in? Did you see them taking stuff out? Evidence teams?
The door to their apartment was open maybe 4 inches, and that's all I know.
When was the last time you saw him?
Oh gosh, weeks ago.
Can you talk about the moment when you learned what happened and you learned that this person was
I heard about the shooting, and on my way back from surgery, the person who gave me a ride suggested that the person who was suspected of the shooting might live on my block. And then she showed me a picture of the green door. And I said, yes, that's my building.
How are you feeling now? Just after with all this attention and what's going on in the apartment next door, how are you feeling?
Sad and disappointed. We have 2 people dead in D.C. We have 50,000 dead in Gaza. And how many children starved to death last night? In 1956, Israel invaded Sinai. They invaded Gaza. The United States President at the time, Dwight Eisenhower, put his foot down. And he told the French and the British to get the heck out of the Suez Canal. And he told Israel to get the heck out of Sinai and out of Gaza.
I don't know what it's called.
Now,
but
where would we be today
I don't know what it calls.
if we had a president that could have said that 2 years ago?
Excuse me, can you describe again the Elias personality? The unit.
Quiet and friendly. Quiet and friendly.
What's your age, if you don't mind me asking?
71. I'm the guy with all the signs in the window.
What do you hope happens next?
Pardon me, so you're listening to a neighbor of the 31-year-old Chicago man who has been arrested, accused of gunning down a couple who worked for the Israeli embassy. They were attending an event at the Jewish Museum when a 31-year-old man, in cold blood, witnesses say, shot them, killing them. They were a couple, and they were relatives and friends say they were on track to be engaged in just a couple of weeks. And the shooter, according to witness accounts, yelled, "Free, free Palestine," upon his arrest. President Trump condemning this violence early this morning, saying that there is no place for radicalism. You're hearing from that neighbor, 71 years old, I think he said, that he's lived in the building for a couple of years, that nothing really stood out about the man who we know has been identified as Elias Rodriguez, that he wished he had known that this man possibly harbored these intentions, that he would have spoken with him. This is an active investigation. We can only tell you what this person is accused of and what authorities are saying, and they have identified him as a 31-year-old man from Chicago who apparently, as recently as this month, lived at this apartments in Chicago. So as we're gathering more information on this, we will certainly bring it to you here on the live desk. We're going to take another quick break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Thanks for stopping in on the Wisconsin Live Desk, where we cover what's happening right now, whether it be right here in the city of Milwaukee, across the Midwest, or nationally. We've been following a couple of big stories, and one that is continuing, of course, is what's happening in New York. You're taking a live look from outside of the courthouse. The P. Diddy sex trafficking trial is happening right now. Some key witnesses today. One of the bigger witnesses that people were waiting to hear from, the jurors, I should say, waiting to hear from, that is Kid Cudi, who's testifying in court today. He briefly had a relationship with Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and is expected to testify about violence that he saw and that threats that Diddy allegedly made towards him. He says that Combs actually broke into his Hollywood home, and this was in 2011, according to Kid Cudi, after finding out that he was dating Cassie and that someone set fire to his car weeks later. So that's one of the pieces of information that's coming out of court. Combs' ex-assistant also testified, and that was one of the, I don't know if you can say bizarre, because there's been so many disturbing findings coming out of this. The former assistant testified on Wednesday that he was in charge of cleaning up the hotel rooms where these so-called freak-offs happened, and that he understood his job was to make sure that Diddy's reputation was not tarnished, and so that was the reason that the scenes were not left for hotel staff to clean up. He said that that was his job, that after these sex marathons, he would toss out the empty alcohol bottles, the baby oil, the drugs, and he would tidy the pillows and make it look as if nothing happened. Now, prosecutors are alleging that Diddy used his fame and fortune to create this empire where he exploited and coerced women into abusive sex parties. And he's charged with blackmail, violence, including kidnapping and arson. This trial is expected to go on for some time, a number of weeks. Court has, though, ended for today, and it will resume after the holiday. So you won't be getting any more updates other than what you're getting here on the live desk of what happened in federal court. And if you're wondering, why aren't we inside of the court? It's a federal trial, and so federal trials, cameras are prohibited from being inside, and so that's why the only visuals you're getting from the trial are that of sketch artists that try to capture the entire day in a sketch, and we are, though, camped out, and occasionally a journalist, a reporter might catch a word with one of the defense attorneys who might want to give some comments on what was heard. We know that members of Diddy's family have been in court, and they also exit through these doors, and so you know, the hope is that maybe someone might want to say something about what was said in courts, anything about the case. So the trial will not resume until Tuesday because of the Memorial Day holiday. And so here's the question. What about those jurors? They've been instructed to avoid news coverage and discussions about this case over 4 days. And the judge suggested that they do other things, like go for a walk, quote, watch the Knicks avenge their Game 1 loss. I'm still salty about that. The Pacers have to go down, right? But yes, that was, you know, one of the things, the first couple of days of jury selection, where both the prosecution and the defense get to question the vast pool of potential jurors on whether or not they can be impartial. I mean, this case, Diddy has been locked up since the fall, and there's been a lot of talk, both online and in the media, about the case, and of course that infamous video of the abuse that happened at the hotel between Cassie and Diddy. And so the jurors who are seated have said that they can remain impartial, that they can form a decision based on what is presented in court and not in the court of public opinion. And they will certainly be put to the test because now they're home for the next 4 days. The trial has now concluded for the week, and it will resume Tuesday after Memorial Day holiday. So, you know, imagine those jurors. Do their families know that they are on this trial, or only that they have been called to sit on a trial and that they can't talk about anything that goes on in court? We shall see. We're going to take another break. You're watching the Wisconsin Live.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Thursday. We're wrapping up another great afternoon. Thanks for stopping in. Some of the stories that we touched upon. The first is that the House passed President Trump's big, beautiful budget. It happened 1 vote. Pushed it over the finish line. That happened early this morning. The other big story that we are following is that there seems to be a a Midwest connection to that shooting where 2 people were gunned down. They work for the Israeli embassy. They were gunned down outside the Jewish Museum in D.C. and the subject...
Hello?